Boom shakalaka, and welcome to the Sasha Daygame podcast. Today, I'm super stoked. I'm back in my home city of Toronto. It is a shithole, and it's cold outside, but it's still good to be back because I'm with my very good friend, Johnny Soporno. Make some noise for Johnny Soporno! Sorry, I did just say it right now. Beautiful. So yeah, Johnny... it's beautiful that he's here today because one of the topics I love talking about as I kind of mature in my own development is how the pickup community is gay and retarded and isn't helping people and it's actually hurting people, and what we need to do as men to actually become better and get what we want out of life, not just our dating life, but just out of life, period. And I think sometimes the community, pickup community, is the opposite, the antithesis of actually helping men get what they want out of their lives. This weekend, or the last couple of weeks, would be a perfect example. I'm here in Toronto, and as soon as I get here, I might have had a couple of clients. I wanted to take them to the Eaton Centre, which is this huge mall, and I hear that there's been a group of guys, like literally, it was like 80 guys or something, showed up there and just started approaching hundreds of women over and over and over again, getting absolutely nowhere and destroying the place. And now they're like on the lookout for PUAs, which might actually fuck shit up for a normal human like me, which just wants to go in there and hang out and maybe talk to a couple of girls. So that's just one element of it, making people retarded. So it's a huge, long topic, and Johnny's a wonderful person to discuss this. So I guess I should let people know who the fuck he is. I think people have an idea because I've mentioned you in at least one YouTube video. I've mentioned you on my blog, and I've plugged you also in articles before. So people should have at least a basic idea of that you exist and that you're doing good. However, that being said, I met Johnny in 2008 at the Real Man Conference.
That's right, in Amsterdam.
And it was great. It was a great time. And there were some not so great speeches, some pretty good speeches. Johnny's was definitely my favorite, and it really blew my reality apart. Like, I could not believe the shit. I just sat there completely stuck to my chair. I was in awe because he was just completely changing the foundation of my core beliefs that I've always had. And the thing is with your core beliefs is that you don't even know they're there sometimes. You just believe certain things completely. You believe them almost on a level of like air is air, water is water, food is food, I'm a human being, and you're supposed to have one girlfriend and get married to her and then die. I mean, literally, we don't even challenge some of these beliefs that we have. So he went up there and started saying shit which completely was changing my paradigm, and it almost felt like I was taking some kind of fucking drug. Because it is. It is, because you're literally waking up from this dream, and you don't even realize you're in the dream until you start waking up from the dream. It's really fucking amazing. And it's actually quite similar to what I'm going through now, and awakening to my existence here on this planet Earth. This is a fucking dream too. But that's a topic for another podcast. So Johnny, I would say, to use my own words, he's a reality shifter, he's an awakener. And primarily, he focuses on, although life success too, letting people realize that, hey, you know what? It's not fucking normal for one man to be with one woman forever, or certainly that shouldn't be the only thing being taught, though it may be right for some. It's probably not right for most people, and Johnny is sharing that message. And because of Johnny, back in when I was starting out, I was super gung-ho. Back in 2008, I was running around approaching thousands of girls. And at the time, I didn't realize I was being a fucktard. But it was good for a while. I learned some stuff. It's fine. But he woke me up to the fact that it's because of Johnny that I'm able to actually really connect with women and really I develop my sense of innate curiosity for women, my passion for women. And when I meet girls now, I'm not like, I want to be like, sure, sex is great, but I'm really going out there looking for the type of women that I truly find attractive, girls that I really want to connect with, because I've just become more in tune with who I am as a man, what I'm looking for, and I've just started loving me a lot more. And now that I respect myself and love myself, it's just natural that I'm going to try and find a girl who's fucking amazing, who can match me, not just some slut I want to get my cock into. So it's really has fun. Johnny's teachings have really fundamentally changed me, who I am as a person. He's one of my mentors, and he's only got good stuff to say. So that's basically who Johnny is and how I met him and sort of our relationship. So yeah, let's bring it over to Johnny. I guess they're short, and I'll warn people, Johnny has a lot of good stuff. He tends to go on forever and ever. So I'm going to try and direct him, and if you hear him screaming at some points, because I'm twisting his nipple trying to get him to wrap up a point. So that being said, that's a pre-frame for you guys. That's me pre-framing. You see me doing my videos. I just pre-frame Johnny Soporno's talk. So briefly, hint, tell the guys a little bit about how the hell you got into this thing. if you are indeed part of it at this point, the seduction community?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you very much for all the sweet words. It's actually really heartwarming to hear you say these things. I'm delighted to have been able to influence you in the ways I have. I think you're an excellent fella, and I think the things you're teaching people are really great for them. So to be called out in this way is profoundly gratifying. I love the feeling of appreciation I have. How did I get involved with the seduction community? Funny story. In Toronto, I had for many, many years been much older looking than I was, obese, furry, but almost hairless guy who no one would imagine was going to be good with women. And I was, contrarily, surrounded by beautiful, thoughtful, creative, playful, sexy women all the time. And everyone who knew me, but didn't actually know me, people who'd seen me, figured I must be giving them drugs or paying their rent or doing all the other things they imagine, or that I had a foot-long penis, or whatever other things they imagine a guy's got to have going for him in order for him to get these girls. I had a lot of interesting experiences in Toronto with some people we both know, not directly, but observationally. Either they had been studying me, or I had seen them and found myself bewildered by the ways they were going about things. One day, a friend of mine in New York City sent me a pre-release copy of a book called The Game. He said, "You've got to read this. I was just reading through it, and it's all about you." And I didn't understand. But he'd only read through the first 50 pages or so, and it talks about Toronto, and it talks about things that were things that I had developed for myself. So he sent a copy of it up, and I read through the whole thing, and I laughed my ass off. I thought it was terrific. Because what I thought I was reading was a condemnation of the shallow lives of pickup artists. And that's actually what the book The Game is. It's a growth and redemption story of a guy who gets into this, desperate to meet girls, and when he's finally worked his way through, been processed through, lost himself, finally realizes that in order to connect with a woman, you've got to connect with a woman. Well, I read it, and I thought it was hysterical. I thought this is going to be a fun book and a good seller. Then when I saw it was being sold and it looked like a Bible and people were buying it and talking about it like crazy and guys were going, "Oh my God, I've got to learn to do this." I thought, holy shit, this book is going to be an enabling document for assholes, not something that an enlightened person is going to get a laugh out of. So I got in touch with some people from the book, friends of mine and some colleagues that I had not known would be in this. Got in touch with Neil Strauss himself, spoke to Steve Pickus and Hypnotica, called Rasputin. And I was talking with them about how this was turning out instead of being something which was helping men become more freely minded, independent, self-comfortable, and actively prepared to lead women, or lead women who were craving leadership. It was turning men into these machines that were pretending to act as though they were someone that women would like. And this was going to leave every one of these poor, tragic guys with a long list of women who hated their guts and no happiness. Well, Steve P. invited me to come to the Cliff's List convention in 2006, where nobody knew who I was. Only on Steve's vouch did I get an opening at this, because Cliff was such an appreciator of Steve. Came out and also ran into Zanpirian. We all were thick as thieves, had a great time, went up on stage and spoke an evangel of coming good news that people really appreciated at the event. Unfortunately, Cliff, being a terrific guy, had put together a great event, but none of what we said actually made it out to the mainstream because he just couldn't get his act together, which I'm completely familiar with. I've had the same problem myself with my own books. So anyway, the answer to your question, how did I get involved? I got involved in the community by de-lurking at the Cliff's List convention and trying to help guys understand that being a pickup artist, or rather, trying to become a pickup artist, was not a positive thing. Learning how to be good with women was a very positive thing. Learning that it's okay to approach a woman and say hello or start a conversation or be comfortable with them is a good thing. Women will appreciate it too. However, all the rigmarole of trying to pretend to be someone that's going to provide them with the security, the confidence, the lifelong sponsorship that they've been raised to believe that they're after, is fundamentally being a con man, trying to tell them you're going to be something for them in exchange for their giving you something you want, when in fact you have no interest in that at all. All you want to do is get something from them and then move on. So, having recognized that the pickup artist was the con man in the domain of the sexual predator, I've always been actively trying to help people recognize that it's great to learn to be good with women. It's great to be able to seduce women and make them feel comfortable with themselves. And it's dreadful to lead them on and have them feel angry and disabused and hostile towards men. It damages everyone when they do this. Amongst other things, I've been trying to tell guys, don't take numbers from girls for the sake of taking numbers. If you take a number from a girl, get in touch with her. Not 3 days or 4 days later. Get in touch with her the next day. Because if you wait a few days, first day, she goes, I was waiting for his call, hoping for his call, he didn't call. Oh, shit. Well, maybe he just lacks the balls. Next day, you don't call. She says, yeah, that's his problem. He was one of those pickup artists. He was just collecting numbers. Then when you call on the third day, she goes, oh, okay, so he's playing games. Fine, I can play games too. Only they're way better at it than we are.
Yep.
So I say, guys, if you actually like a girl enough to take a number from her, get in touch with her. You met her someplace. You would have liked to have gone home with her that night. But for whatever reason you couldn't. So get in touch with her as soon as you can to pick up from that vibe. See if you can parlay it into something else.
Yeah, I remember you telling me, actually, years ago, something you do, you'll be talking to a girl, and if it's going well, you'll say, listen, I gotta go, because I gotta be somewhere, but I'm gonna call you right now. And you'll literally walk away and call the girl at that same moment and continue the conversation, which is actually a beautiful thing, because now she's used to picking up the phone and talking to you. So.
Actually, to be completely fair, I have found for myself many, many times, and I don't make if I go into a nightclub, because I happen to be in the mood to go and meet someone new, I'll walk around, I'll find the girl who I can see who looks like she's the most receptive and therefore has made herself as attractive and compelling as she can be, and I will approach her to start a conversation, and I will have a conversation, and if she's got anything to talk about, if 5 minutes into the conversation I'm still interested in what she's got to say, then I'll try and lead things to the point where she's comfortable leaving the venue and going home with me. If for whatever reason she's with friends or she's got a situation or whatever, she's not comfortable leaving, I'll tell her that I'm going to go, that I've seen everything I was looking for tonight, I'm in a great mood, I'm going to take off, I've got to be someplace. Give me your number, I'm going to call you right now, because I want to keep talking with you, and I'll leave. And I'll head down to my car, still talking with her, giggling and laughing and talking about whatever. I'll get in my car and I'll start driving around. And it doesn't matter where I'm driving, because I'm not actually going anywhere. 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, I'm still talking to the girl. And I say, you know what's insane? I've been driving around, I completely forgot where I had to be. I'm only a couple of minutes from the place. We're still on the phone. Why don't you just come downstairs and get into my car? This is silly. The girl will realize for the last 25 minutes she's been sitting there ignoring her friends, just talking to me. She'll say, okay, I'll get my coat, I'll meet you down at the front door. And this has been a tremendous time saver in every sense, but much more important, it's allowed both of us to recognize the nature of our comfort with one another and turn it into a sexual thing in real time. And if it doesn't actually reach a total sexual moment because for whatever reason she just had a bunch of genital warts burnt off that day and wanted to see the scars or whatever other reason we can't go to bed, we get to spend some quality time with each other that makes us feel that we're connected without any of the pretense of trying to be boyfriend and girlfriend or any of that bogosity. And as far as I'm concerned, seduction is the art of persuading someone to confidently go ahead and do what they wanted to do all along. When you're seducing a woman, you're not convincing her to come to bed with you. You're empowering her to make the decision to go get laid by someone she finds interesting and attractive.
that's a big misconception, because a lot of people really feel that that they've got to seduce, they've got to do certain things or certain tricks or say certain things, and you don't. So I think it really fucks a lot of guys up, like this whole, I've got to become a seducer, I've got to do this whole, they think they have to do a whole bunch of stuff. What they actually have to do is take away a bunch of behaviors and beliefs that are stopping them from being that guy that naturally would be seductive.
Exactly. In fact, let's take it one step further. When having a daughter was a burden to a father, because the daughter was her sponsor and responsible for her welfare and her well-being, and his job was to find her a husband who would then produce children through her. And so, since the husband wanted to believe the children were his own, she would have to be a virgin when they got married. A seducer was a terribly wicked, evil man, because he was a guy who would show up and convince the girl to have sex, after which she would no longer be sellable. She'd be a fallen woman, despoiled. There have been laws in many countries, including England, US, and Canada, in which it was illegal to have sex with a woman of, quote, previously chaste moral character. In other words, if a man had sex with a virgin outside of marriage, it was basically theft from her father. And that's where original statutory rape came from. Interesting thing about our society, the word rape has to do with taking something, not with having sex with something. Birds of prey are called raptors, like velociraptors are called raptors. They come and they grab and they take. And rape was a crime against the father of the woman. And the punishment was the rapist had to marry the woman. And therefore take her off the hands of the father, who would otherwise not be able to vend her. Wouldn't be able to sell her off. When you understand these things, you recognize that we've gotten into a socialization where it's very hard for a man to look at a woman and empower her to make her own decisions. Because even if he wants her to make the decision, there's a part of his brain saying, if she does come to bed with me tonight, it proves she's of low value. Because if she had high enough self-respect, she would hold out and make me pay. She would make me marry her. And this fundamental paradigm, this mistaken idea that all men are raised with, which I like to call Marx's paradox. That's named for the brilliant philosopher Groucho Marx, who said, I'd never belong to a club that would have a guy like me as a member. Men are all raised to understand that any girl whose quality standard was so low that they would make the grade was clearly too low in her standards for them. I'd never belong to a club that would have me as a member. It was the same thing as saying I'd never work for a boss stupid enough to hire me. I'd never have a friend with such low mind that he would have me as a friend. But of course, we can handle the idea I'd never go to bed with a girl who would choose to go to bed with me for who I am.
It's some very deep, fucked up programming, and I think it's that programming that the sort of pickup industry, as we see it, feeds off of to sell guys shit.
Absolutely.
And this is what I want. This is really what I want to delve into. So what it does, I feel, is that it just preys off people's fears. So all these people are out there.
I think the sound of the man peeing in the background is probably worse than the sound of the ignition. I'll always pause for a second.
Oh, yeah. So what I think all these, first of all, it's a bunch of marketing people who aren't actually good with women that are selling all these products. So that's problem A. They're people who are here to make money, not people who are here to help other people. That's problem number one. Problem number two is they just tell guys what they want to hear, and then they sell them something that doesn't actually help them. So, for example, hey, there's this great new product where where it'll make women approach you. And there's no chance of rejection. Or here's how you can hook up with lots of girls, but there's you can avoid rejection altogether. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. It's never existed. The only way to avoid rejection is to take a gun, put it in your mouth, and pull the trigger. Then you'll avoid all rejection. That's the only way. So it's an absurd concept, but that's what sells, because guys are pussies and they don't want to fucking man the fuck up. And the problem is, I feel, is two parts. A, there's no ritual that turns boys into men. most men are soft. If you grow up in the Western world, there's no real threat of dying or hunger or there's nothing. You can basically be a pussy your whole life, and there's no consequence to it really, other than you can't get laid. So that's number one. And number two, the people who are selling these products, they're never going to come out and say, hey, you know what? There is a course. We can get you good with girls, but you know what? It's going to be tough. You're going to have to work your ass off. It's going to take time. You will be rejected lots. You're going to have to man the fuck up and take it and grow as a human being, and then you're going to get some girls and have an amazing life. Who's fucking selling that? Well, I am, but guess what? It's tough. It's not as easy as, and it really, it would be a lot easier if I was just going, selling this magical pill that doesn't exist. But that's really what the problem is. They're just telling people what they want to hear. And selling them a bunch of shit that isn't really going to get them what they want, and people are buying it because people are stupid. There's another fundamental thing: people are stupid.
You put your finger on
Sorry, everybody, but most of you listening to this probably are stupid.
Why don't we change that and say that most people listening to this are smart enough to recognize they want a change in their life, and that, by itself, is a big advantage.
I'll go with that.
The vast majority of people don't even realize how miserable they are.
Yes, that's a really huge one. The last couple of podcasts I put out have been really about that. It's about waking up and realizing what's happening here.
Most people have no clue that they are responsible for their own successes, their own happiness, their own self-satisfaction, and it doesn't occur to them that those are important things. Our culture has gone to great lengths to teach people that what other people think of them is more important than what they think of themselves.
Yep.
Moving away from this fundamental narcissism, we come back to the really important stuff. What really matters. Women are fantastic. However, they're raised with poisonous, awful and insidious conceptual models that can't work, cannot work. And this, of course, makes women not trust women, and men think women are crazy, and women constantly complain about how they can't get what they're after because we've polluted them with a mindset that is irrational. Let's go to some first principles on this, if you don't mind, because I think it'll make things a lot more clear for the listener. Every young girl is raised to understand that her job as a young girl is to keep her sponsor happy. Her sponsor is usually daddy. Sometimes it's both her parents, sometimes it's just mommy. But her job is to keep her sponsor happy, and when her sponsor is happy, the world is wonderful for her. So she gets to celebrate. She's happy, she gets to do what she likes. Eventually she starts to realize that in order to do the things she likes, she's going to have to do some things that are not going to make her sponsor happy. So she learns quickly, and from every aspect of our culture, and particularly from her own mother and her sister and her friends' sisters and her friends' mothers, an incredibly important fundamental paradigm for women. What daddy doesn't know won't hurt him. Which is another way of saying, not being caught misbehaving is the same thing as behaving. Not getting caught in a lie is the same thing as telling the truth. This pollutes a woman's logical faculties because she's now a little distorted on what is real and what is not. She's also taught if she does what she wants with her life, instead of doing what society tells her to do, if instead of settling down with a new sponsor, someone to take over the role of daddy, we call him hubby, until she's found this sponsor to take care of her and guarantee her welfare and her safety, she's not taking life seriously. She's just being a little girl. Her parents and her friends and others will tell her that this is very important. She's got to start taking life seriously. Because if she's having sex because she enjoys sex, or because she enjoys the people she's having sex with, and not because she's being rewarded with guarantee of security, she's proving she has no self-respect because she's giving herself away for nothing. See, if a girl gives herself away for nothing, it proves she has no self-respect. We've all bought into this idea. Instead of saying a woman is making up her own mind and doing what she'd like, we say she's giving herself away for nothing. So instead of saying doing what you like because it suits you and makes you happy, proves you do have self-respect. We say, oh no, if you're a girl and you do what you like, it proves you have no self-respect. So there's a second example of stuff that is absolutely irrational and causes women to have a lot of difficulty culturally in figuring out what is a true and what is a false sentiment. So if there's one thing all women and men can agree upon, it's you can't trust girls. Ask any of them, they'll always get a giggle. And the reason for this is because women, having been raised with one mission in mind, which is to make other people happy, please other people, because that's where happiness seems to come from, they please people by telling them what they want to hear. Which is why many men have problems with women flaking, saying, oh yes, I'd love to do that with you, and then not showing up. Women do this to women too, constantly. They always say yes, because they don't want to say no. Saying no disappoints people, and they aren't pleased. And if they aren't pleased, then the person who says no doesn't get to be happy. So, it takes a considerable intellectual awakening, spiritual enlightenment, for a woman to transition from being a girl into being an adult. And then, she does that when she stops trying to hide what she's doing or what she'd like to be doing from her sponsor. And she becomes free when she realizes that she does not need a sponsor. The only security possible in life comes from what she can do herself to keep herself above water, or what she can do to inspire other people to help her up when she starts to go below. The same is true for men. We men suffer from this huge egocentric problem of needing approval. In fact, a boy doesn't become a man until he gets over his fear of disapproval. And a man doesn't become free until he realizes that the only approval he actually needs is his own. For women, security is a primary driver. For men, approval is the same primary driver.
And if I could just agree with that heavily and put in my own, what happened to me with this, because I went through this transition. See, the irony is what I'm doing now, it took me fucking years to get through this transition, years and years and years, but the irony is what I'm doing now is giving men that transition in a very short period. Because guys are coming to me and they're scared to talk to girls, and I literally put them through a bunch of exercises where they stop giving a fucking shit what people think about them, because I force them into situations where they'll be judged and they'll have to not care, because it's either that or jump off a building. There's no choice. So they get okay. Pat's here, who's been on, of course, he knows what I'm talking about. So it's literally people are coming to me to become men. That's why they're coming to me. It's not even that they want. They're literally coming to me because they have no choice but to do this, because they've got to a point in their lives where they cannot be fucking men and act as such. But for me, my process took fucking years. It took years. And even when I met you, you were joking about this the other day. I was seeking approval. Even though I had certain talents or whatever, I was very, very eager to. At that point in life, and even earlier when I was doing stand-up comedy, I was always funny, sure. But I had to prove to everybody how funny I was. Look at me, I'm the funniest comedian ever. Every time I was with comics in the room, I had to be the one. I couldn't just shut the fuck up. I had to be cracking jokes all the time. Yeah, it was unbelievable. And people would come up to me and be like, hey man, just calm down, you're funny, it's okay. And I'll be like, I am calm, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. And just my ego was in the way. Wouldn't listen to anybody and just kept being... And eventually, with old age, turning 30 and all this kind of stuff, eventually I just slowly calmed down. And eventually realized, oh, wait a minute, actually I have a lot to offer people. I'm a wonderful person. I'm doing great stuff. There's no reason for me to have to prove anything to anyone. I like me. And when I really woke up and went, hang on a minute, I'm a fucking great person, that was it, really. And, that was it.
Fantastic. Well, you see, you've put your finger on the most important aspect. The thing that if I can summarize one thing that epitomizes the problem with the PUA concept. Women have evolved to follow a man's lead. Not necessarily a man's lead, but to follow someone who demonstrates a masculine presence. It could be a woman with a tremendously high testosterone level or a tremendously driven personality type, but someone who seems to know what the fuck to do and is confident enough to demonstrate to the other people, come on, follow me. Women are raised to presume that they're going to have a sponsor. They're always raised, in our society anyway, to presume that someone else is going to be there to clean up their messes and to protect them and provide for them. truly independent women are very, very hard to find, and I work very hard to help women recognize that they can be truly independent, to emancipate themselves, and that's the women that I find most interesting and attractive. But it's a big challenge for them, because it means throwing away all their fundamental belief in all their history of quietly suppressing their true nature and lying about it so they could do what they wanted without being caught. And by inviting them to, exactly the same way as you do with guys, you teach men something that no one ever realizes, which is that it's only a taboo the first time. After you've done it, you realize, well, that wasn't such a big deal after all. Most guys are so desperate for the approval of other people that the idea of having disapproval is so off-putting they won't even make a move. Mm-hmm. Now, the fundamental problem in the pickup community is that pickup artists all follow from this social rule that says the sex a man should want ought to cost him a lot. Sex that he has now to pay for is not valuable. Whereas, ironically, lots of my clients tell me ultimately that the sex they didn't have to pay for with cash was always much more expensive than the stuff they paid for with cash. I think the whole thing is hysterical.
It is pretty funny.
Now, men are raised to understand that they themselves can't be good enough, ever, because any girl who would like them is clearly not good enough for them. So a man has to break through this and recognize the women he wants, the women he should be interested in, are the ones who are interested in him for who he is. But before a man can become comfortable being who he is, he has to learn to be the person whose approval he needs. He needs to recognize that other people's opinions of him are either unspoken and unknown, so he has nothing to go on, and he's projecting onto them what he imagines they think of him, and that's what's keeping him down. Or they're the opinions of people who live in a world in which doing anything outside of normal is weird and creepy. Interesting thing. The most evil, awful thing a woman can call another woman is not cunt or something like that. The most evil thing a woman can call another woman is slut. Because a slut, when described by a woman, is a woman who is giving away something that that first woman needs to sell in order to guarantee her security. A slut is a union scab who's undercutting the cartel, giving away something that is a value that that girl needs to negotiate with. So, women despise slutty women and punish women for being slutty women. Men also punish women for being slutty by, in their own mind, saying, well, if she's going to go to bed with someone as low quality as me, she'd clearly go to bed with anybody. So therefore, since her standards are so low, I should be looking for someone who would never go out with me, would always go out with someone who was better than me. And of course, in order to get someone who was better than me, in order for me to get with someone who wants someone better than me, I've got to lie. I've got to push myself forward as though I was cooler, smarter, better than I am, and convince them of it.
It all stems from just an unworthiness.
Right, a sense...
You just don't think you're worthy.
This is the whole reason I coined the expression worthy playboy. And all my workshops, everything I've done under the worthy playboy banner. Because worthiness is both the self-comfort and the projected assumption that what you like is something that's well within your grasp because you've earned it. And a playboy is a person dedicated to enjoying their life, doing the things necessary. But you see, I live an amazing playboy lifestyle without having to spend any money. I mean, my girlfriends will gladly take care of me. I couldn't live with myself for long if I did that, but the truth of the matter is, it doesn't cost anything. What I need to provide women is a sensation internally that they're okay. I need to give them non-judgmental acceptance, allowing them to be the person they are and empowering them to make their own choices. In order for this to work, I have to be 100% confident in the person I am. And then they will follow my lead. Interesting thing. You walk up to a girl and you're full of self-doubt. You think, my hair is bad today, I shouldn't be doing this, she's not going to like me, but you make yourself walk over to her. Women have evolved to follow a man's lead. They can sense what a man feels about himself at a distance, wordlessly. They've evolved to be able to identify how a man feels and thinks about himself. So, you walk up to a girl figuring you're full of shit, the girl's going to follow your lead and think you're full of shit. You walk up to a girl thinking she's out of your league, she's going to follow your lead and think she's out of your league. Now, you walk up to a girl thinking that you're excellent, you're a good guy, that you don't need her validation in order for you to still be a good guy. And that's going to completely reset her outlook. When I walk up to a pretty girl, I walk up to pretty girls all the time and start conversations, but I'm not walking over to them to try and impress them.
This is a huge point that I love smashing down people's fucking throats because it's so important. The whole concept of being indirect and hiding your intentions and trying to talk to girls, and God forbid they figure out they want to have sex with them. You're approaching a girl with a fundamental belief that you're not worthy. If you have to do magic tricks or be super funny or talk about how much money you have or your fancy car or some famous guy, any of that stuff, women are so much socially intelligent than us. They know immediately you know you're not worthy of her because you're trying to impress her. And I have a quote that I tell all my students. Those that are truly impressive do not need to impress.
I'll take it one step further. In case you've never thought about this. Anything that a person does to try to be impressive, or worse, to try to appear impressive, communicates to the other person that what they think of you is more important than what you think of yourself.
That's huge. That's fucking huge.
When I walk over to a pretty girl, I walk over to her because she's attractive. How do I know she's attractive? Because I'm attracted to her. That's what brings me over to her. Simple. I'm attracted, so I walk over. If she looks like she's not in the middle of something that's tremendously time-consuming, or she looks like she's not in a terrible mood or whatever, even if she is in a terrible mood, sometimes I'll walk over and try and help her mood. But I walk over to a pretty girl, and I use my patented, never-fail pickup line. I say, "Hey, I'm Johnny. What's your name?" Once in a while, a girl will say, "What do you want, old man?" Or "What do you want, baldy?" Or "What do you want, fatso?" I'll say, whoa. I don't know who pissed in your Cheerios, honey, but it wasn't me. I'm just going over to make friends, learn about you, friendly-like. So why don't we try this again? Reset. "Hey, I'm Johnny. What's your name?" And overwhelmingly, they respond with, "Apologies, I'm so sorry, I don't know why I was such a bitch to you." I say, "Don't get caught up about it. I understand. You're a beautiful girl, no doubt. You are accosted by pickup artists all the time."
Here's a big question that I think people need to hear the answer to, and it's a very simple one. I've got my own 2 cents, but as you're being interviewed, I'll ask you. How does one go about the world and develop your own worthiness? Because I'm sure a lot of guys are sitting there listening to this, and, they don't really think they're that great, or they got all these issues or worries or concerns, they don't think they're good enough.
It's so simple and so elegant, and I'm astonished that it took me as long as it did for me to come to this conclusion. And I'm amazed how difficult it is for me to get this message across to people, but I'm going to try. There are 2 different aspects. There's self-esteem, which is what in your mind you imagine you ought to be. And your self-confidence, which is what you've demonstrated to yourself. If your self-esteem is too low, even though you've demonstrated to yourself that you could be more than that, you'll hesitate to try. You'll think it's out of your league. If your self-esteem is too high, you'll discover that your self-confidence will prove you're not actually that good. "Oh, I'm a great singer. I'll go up and take care of singing this." And everyone's giggling their ass off. Doesn't work. But for many, many people who are really talented musicians, for example, they would never think to get up in front of an audience because, oh my God, I could never, even though they could, because they have this self-esteem issue. The tricky bit is recognizing your ego is an avatar. It's an artifact which is generated as a byproduct of learning language. When you learn language, you develop the ability to consider yourself as an abstraction. Instead of your hand just being your hand, it's your hand. dogs, cats, we project onto them all sorts of embarrassment that they don't experience because it's easy for us to anthropomorphize. But until a dog or a cat starts learning some language, they haven't got an ego at all. They just exist. They start to get an ego when they start to recognize the specific words that we teach them and the relationship to how we are with them based on that. When a cat tries to jump on something and doesn't make it, falls down, sticks its tail in the air and starts walking away and we think, haha, it's embarrassed. That's a pretty big projection. We're saying that cat not only knows that we're paying attention to it, but that cat cares what our opinion of it is. And that it cares what our opinion of it is. That's tremendous projection. Okay? The cat tries to get on something, doesn't manage, walks away. It walks away because it said, that didn't work, good, try something else. And we project onto it, look, the cat's embarrassed. Similarly, we as people presume that that voice inside our head, the one that tells us what we're supposed to think about what we're hearing, what we're supposed to think about things we see, whether or not we're supposed to do the things we like to do. That voice in our mind is not the voice of reason. It's the voice of our ego that is desperately trying to keep us from doing anything new. Because you see, if you try something new, there's a chance it won't work, and that would be embarrassing. So your ego will always do what it can to keep you stagnant. Because it doesn't care about you at all. It only cares about itself. Your ego is this avatar that each person generates of themselves that takes on the form of how each person imagines other people envision them. So if you think other people think you're funny, your ego will be satisfied that you're funny. If you think people think you're too short, in your mind, your ego will believe it's too short and will do everything it can to avoid situations where it will be exposed as being too short, such as going out with a bunch of friends who are all taller than you. People who are not caught up by this are so profoundly powerful because they're self-accepting. And self-acceptance is absolutely pivotal and key. When you recognize who you are, and you stop setting for yourself an agenda of being much greater than you are right now, and instead set as your immediate term goal to be everything you are, and maybe a little more over time. So you set expectations for yourself that you can reach right now if you just try, not expectations that are out of reach, so that you can be satisfied by yourself right now, just by putting in some effort. Because when a person feels that they are the person they ought to be, they feel they've arrived. This is so much more profoundly empowering because they suddenly feel that, hey, they're on the road to success. And success, as we say, is a journey, not a destination. As long as you're continuing to do the things that you know you should be for your own sake, to be the person you'd like to be, you are successful. You're doing the things necessary. You're taking the steps and you're having the successes. As soon as a person becomes conjoined, or they manage to match their self-esteem to their self-confidence, they feel self-satisfied. Self-satisfaction is half the battle. Self-satisfaction is wonderful, but it's not enough. The other part of it is happiness. When you combine self-satisfaction and happiness, you have successfulness. And successfulness is uniformly attractive. It's compelling. It broadcasts itself without your needing to say a word. You never need to say to someone, hey, look how successful and happy I am. You don't have to say a word. You broadcast it effortlessly all the time, and people will want to be around you because being around someone like that is like basking in a radiating glow. Successfulness is uniformly attractive and compelling.
Successfulness sounds a lot like enlightenment.
Successfulness is a stage of enlightenment. Call it, I like to think of it as pretty much the ultimate stage, because once a person has reached successfulness, there's never ever a reason that they stop having it. Even if situations stop providing them with the satisfactions they'd had before, because their self-satisfaction is managed entirely by their setting expectations for themselves, of themselves.
But if you're truly self-satisfied because of who you are, and you're happy with who you are, your circumstances shouldn't affect
Exactly
the way you
right.
feel whatsoever.
Absolutely right. I've known guys who busk for a living on the street corner playing music, constantly surrounded by girls, loving their life and happy, living off barely above poverty line, and totally happy. And they'll do this for years and years and years. And other people go, look at that guy wasting his life. But the guy's happy. He likes himself. He's satisfied by himself. If his mother says, oh, you could have been a doctor, what happened? He says, Mom, I'm happy. I'm doing the things I'd like to do. If I was a doctor, I'd be miserable. Thank you for thinking I could be a doctor. Probably I could be a doctor, but I didn't want to be a doctor, so there was no point in my doing that to be unhappy. So I'm doing what I am happy with. And if you are not prepared to be delighted with yourself for empowering me to be a happy person, which is the most a parent should be responsible for doing, then I just can't spend time with you, Ma. And these people are happy, self-satisfied. They are successful, and they're surrounded by other people who like to be around them. Now, what happens in certain cases is they'll have a hit record come out. Suddenly, they'll be a huge success, and everyone will look up at them. But the truth of the matter is, many of these people, these misfits of society, they've never taken on a role as a leader. They've never been a follower because they never wanted to follow anyone, but never truly felt independent. Those people are tragic. The ones who've made peace with themselves, accepted themselves, they've transcended that. They've stopped being misfits. They've become independent because all the validation they need comes from themselves. And they are successful. That has nothing to do with the trappings of success. Isn't that a wonderful term, the trappings of success? That's when you buy yourself you lease for yourself a Corniche convertible or something like this for $14,000 a month. You think, this is great, I've got this wonderful car, and then when things go badly for you economically, you're scrambling, you now have to service that debt, it's the most important thing in the world to you, or you have to sacrifice that thing.
You drive a Honda? What?
Yeah, wow. Now suddenly, that thing that was a representation of your grandiosity has fallen to the wayside. That's a trapping of success. It is so empowering not to have the slightest care in the world.
Let me throw this in as well. This is something that just happens naturally for me because, as cheesy as it sounds, I'm just a good person, and therefore I do good things for people. But I find that helping others really can change the way you see yourself and can really lead you towards enlightenment. And it doesn't mean necessarily like you have to completely change somebody's life, whatever, but just doing good things for people. Even if you're walking down the street and a homeless guy needs a sandwich, or helping a friend move, or just helping someone understand something they don't understand. But when you actually are doing good things, and whatever those things are, and you feel proud of what you've done, that's what it is. That's how you build your self-worth as well. You look in the fucking mirror and you think, you know what, I've done some good this week. I've helped people. You know, if you're proud of what you've done, that leads to, you know, self-acceptance. It leads to you feeling amazing about yourself.
In fact, in the first segment of...
Be good, for God's sakes! Be good!
I think it's good for goodness sakes at Christmas time.
Sure.
Anyway, in the first segment of my Seductive Reasoning 101 intro videos, I explain the fastest, easiest way to feel good about yourself. Just look around for people whom you feel could use your help and would use it. And help them. Use your free available time. Offer to help. And if they'll take your help, give it freely, recognizing that their accepting your offer of help is a contract of appreciation. All you need, you know that they're going to appreciate what you've done. They won't feel put upon by it. And do this because it'll make you feel 10 feet tall. I tell this to people all the time. In fact, I had a great conversation with... I was speaking in Montreal many years ago to a very large group, and one of the guys said to me, because I was explaining, go out, and if you see someone who needs you to do something as simple as hold the door for him for a moment while he brings something in from the car, or someone who's having a hard time getting his car started or has a flat tire or whatever, if you got the time, pull over, offer to help. If they say it's okay, it's cool, you say, well, I've got some time, I don't mind. Because some people are trained not to accept offers. But if they say, no, I've got it, don't make them feel minimized and put upon by insisting on helping them. If they don't want your help at the time, they'll probably feel good knowing that someone was prepared to help. They won't feel so alone in the world. Go on feeling good about yourself. If they do want your help, help as best you can. Do it without any concern for any immediate or near-term compensation. Call this an investment in instant karma. Because as soon as you walk away from them knowing you've done something good, worthy, noble, you feel great about yourself. You feel powerful and effective. So, this guy in the audience says, but what do you get out of it? I looked at him, I was flabbergasted. I thought, must be a language problem. I said, the most important thing in the world to me is how I feel about me. Nothing else in the world could possibly matter as much as how I feel about myself. Nothing could matter as much as how I feel about myself. So if I do something for someone because it makes me feel good about myself, I win. If I didn't do something to help somebody, it would do nothing towards making me feel better about myself, and in fact it might make me feel like I was not being helpful when I could have been, which would make me feel poorly about myself. So whenever I have both the time and the availability, I invest my spare free time in helping other people to live better lives. As long as I'm comfortable that they're going to use my help to better their lives, I'm happy to do it. I won't give money to someone just begging for money on the street because I have no confidence at all that it's going to improve their world. In fact, it might just fortify their belief that tomorrow they'll come out and beg for money again. But I will offer to buy a person a meal, pay to get their suit dry cleaned, drive them to their job interview. I will do whatever I can do to encourage a person to better their life because I get to feel so good about myself doing it. And that sense of value in the world is such an underpinning to a coherent, comprehensive sense of worthiness. The feeling that you are justifying your existence because the things you do are good. And so you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%. I've been trying to get this message across for years. Many people think I am the most generous person they've ever met. I get this all the time. And I say, you guys don't understand something. I accept what you're saying and I appreciate your thought, but I want you to know I am uniformly selfish. I'm the most selfish guy I know. I'll go out of my way for any friend because I'm so selfish. Everything I do is always designed to make me feel better about me. So if I do something because I have a surplus of available time or resources to aid someone else and they can't figure out why I'm doing it, it's because I believe that doing it for them is going to be worthwhile. My helping someone out will be worthwhile from my perspective, and that's enough. My reward is how I feel about me.
Awesome. So here's one. Obviously, we've gone over a lot of time, which we expected, but
time is an illusion.
Time is an illusion. On more ways than one. So here's a question. So for all the guys out there who are listening to this, and I suspect there'll be quite a few who are thinking this is all very well and good. However, I want to get laid. I haven't spoken to a girl in a long time, and they just, I think most guys just can't bring themselves to actually go up there and start conversations. And even the ones that do don't feel comfortable getting to the point of, hey, you know what? You're attractive, I'm attractive, let's go have some fun. They're just not at that point. What can they start doing today and tomorrow to get them to the point where they are comfortable approaching girls and being a little bit more upfront about what it is that they want to go and do with them?
Wow. Okay. The simple answer is...
Stop being a pussy!
No, the simple answer is...
And care what people think about you. There's the simple answer.
Follow in the footsteps of the guys who speak at the Direct Dating conference. Go do the stuff that Alan does.
Wait a second. Since you mentioned that, let me do this plug. It's funny because the people will see the pictures. I'm going to take a picture of me here. I'm wearing your Hawaiian shirt, which is several sizes too big for me, because you left it in Berlin after the Direct Dating Summit.
That was in Berlin.
Which is a fantastic event. And cheap plug, we'll be putting out the product pretty soon. And
Yeah,
we're going to be on it, speaking for hours.
Actually, that's true. It was a great seminar. Everyone really outdid themselves. All the speakers were terrific.
It was a pleasure.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to the next one.
Even Steve Pavlina was good. Who saw that coming?
I did. Steve speaks at our workshops every year. He's terrific.
Yeah, he's really good. So, cheap plug out of the way. Let's answer this question for the guy.
So your question, let me see if I can rephrase it.
Reframe.
You're a guy who has lacked the confidence to go and start up a conversation with a stranger, a girl, because despite the fact you think you're a pretty good guy, you think you're worthwhile, you like yourself, but you just know that if you walk up to a girl, because you've had this experience before, she's not going to like you, she's looking for something different than you, or whatever. So you just haven't had a date in years, and you just don't know what to do. Well, I mean, the first advice I would give, like I said, would be go look at stuff that you do and other people whose job it is, amongst other things, to teach people that the worst thing that happens to you when you hit on a girl and she doesn't respond favorably is that girl's no longer interested and you move on to the next one. No harm, no foul in a real sense, unless the girl happens to be a biker chick and her boyfriend's right next to her. But in the most simple sense, all you guys, you've all been making a fundamentally flawed, paradigmatic error that's been put on you by hundreds of years, thousands maybe, of bad language. There's a word that's tremendously poorly understood. The word is success. Everyone thinks a success is when you try something and it works. You try something and it goes beautifully. That's actually not true. The word success has been polluted over time to include this positive spin. Originally, a success was one of a succession of successive attempts. Each attempt yielded a success. In fact, the word success literally means an outcome. Look it up for yourself. You'll see it's listed in the dictionary, but it will say obsolete because no one uses it in that way anymore. That's because we've stupidly allowed ourselves and our egos to throw in this idea that every time you try, you must have a positive outcome. Otherwise, you need to be embarrassed because you've had a failure. But you see, a failure is the opposite of a success. Which is not to say you try something that doesn't work so you failed. Quite the reverse. You don't have a success because you didn't make an attempt. The outcome of any attempt is a success. No success equals a failure. Therefore, the only thing that results in a failure is when you cannot or will not make another attempt. So, if you start from the idea that nothing is more stupid than making the same mistake over and over again, doing the same thing again and again, expecting different results, that's madness, right? So, if every time you've looked at a hot girl from across the room, you thought, oh, I'd like to go over and talk to her, and then your ego spoke up and said, what are you talking about? She doesn't want to know someone like you. She wants to know someone younger, fitter, richer, smarter, better connected, with more hair, bigger muscles, a bigger Johnson, whatever. If you listen to that voice and you don't go over, you have now not only failed, but you've failed the same way you failed every previous time. And doing the same thing again and again, expecting a better result, well, that's just insane. So you have to teach your ego that nothing could be more embarrassing, nothing, than being seen as and recognized as stupid to yourself by making the same mistake again and again and again and again. And instead, in your mind, think of your ego like an annoying old coot sitting on your front porch. He's your next door neighbor or upstairs neighbor, and he's sitting on your porch and he's rocking back and forth on his rocking chair, and he sees you as you're walking out the door, and every time you walk out, he offers his opinion. So you walk out the door, and he says, where are you going, you big numbnuts? Get back in that house before someone sees you. So you have to look at him, you have to say, appreciate your input. Thank you. But don't argue, because the more you argue, the more you empower him. This is true with your ego. If your ego speaks up and tells you not to do something, in your mind, you just say, thank you. I appreciate the insight. And then you go ahead and do what you wanted to do. It works out like this. First day you walk out with a bushel basket, or with a bunch of chicken wire. You walk out the front of your house, and he's out there and he says, "Where are you going with that chicken wire, you big dummy? You look like an idiot." You go, "I'm going to go get some chickens." "What? You can't get no chicken with no chicken wire? What's wrong with you, boy?" "Thank you. I appreciate the input." You simply go on, and you come back with a bunch of chickens all wrapped up in the chicken wire, and he watches you go by. Can't say a word. No arguing with success. And then next day you walk out, and you're carrying a bunch of duct tape. He says, "Where are you going with that duct tape? You look like a fool out there with all that duct tape." "I'm going to get myself some ducks." "Can't get ducks with no duct tape. You're an idiot. Get back in the house before you make an idiot of yourself. Everyone sees you." You say, "Thank you." And you keep going. When you come back with a bunch of ducks all wound up in the duct tape, he'll go, won't say a word. But he starts to recognize that maybe you're not such an idiot after all. Maybe you're not diminishing him in the eyes of others. And in fact, it's not a risk to him to let you do your own thing. So the next morning, when you walk out with a bushel basket full of pussy willows, he says, "Hang on, I'll get my coat."
Nice. There's always a punchline.
At this point, my ego is my biggest fan. As a matter of fact, I have to sometimes stop myself because my ego's going, "Oh, look at her, she'll love you." I say, "Well, I don't have time, thanks though." I don't remember the last time I have had my ego try and stop me from doing something. The voice in my head, if it speaks up at all, is telling me to get on with it already. What are you waiting for?
And that's an execute.
That's okay.
Here's another mini question. How do we help guys develop what took me years to develop?
A full head of self-esteem?
That's right. Now, as mine goes down, let's get other people's up. A genuine curiosity for women, because a lot of guys, they just don't get it. They want to find an amazing girl, but really, the way they're behaving and things they're saying is basically showing people they just want to get laid. And I want to make them realize the importance of knowing what you want and the importance of actually, when you're talking to a woman, her feeling that you really do want to connect with her and for who she is, but more than that, that you as a man develop your own fucking natural curiosity to connect with other human beings, including women, on a real level, not just on a, hey, I want to get my fucking dick in a hole. Okay. And it's important. And if you don't have that natural curiosity, guess what? You're only really going to go so far. You're not really going to have any deep, meaningful connections with women, and that's sad.
I like the way you phrase a mini question. All right, let me give you as close to a mini answer as I'm able. Every woman is looking for a man who is self-loving and self-respecting. Okay? He likes himself. He clearly likes women. He's interested, not attracted, but interested in her as a person. And is confident enough and comfortable enough to lead her on adventures she would enjoy. Every girl in the world who's even remotely interested in males is looking for someone who is that. Likes himself, likes women, interested in her as a person, and confident enough to lead them both on an adventure. That's a magical combination. Works every time. Now, why is it that so few girls can find that? Because the overwhelming majority of guys don't like themselves, don't actually like women because they've had very little reason to like women. Women have not responded well to them since they didn't like themselves. Women could sense they don't like themselves. We're going to follow your lead and not like you too. So first thing to remember is, if you don't like yourself, why the fuck would you imagine other people will? If you don't like yourself, fix that. Take a moment, think, if I met me tomorrow, if I met myself tomorrow, would I want me as a friend? Knowing everything I know about myself, would I want me as a friend? If there are any aspects of you that you absolutely would consider deal breakers, you must fix them. Before you do anything else, make that your first priority. Fix the things about yourself you would not accept in a friend. When you start to like yourself, you know what, okay, I've got a little problem here, a little problem there, that's fine. Other friends of mine, people I'm prepared to overlook it for, have that problem, so I'll give myself that much slack. But I'm going to get to a place where I like being me, and if I met me, I'd be happy to meet me, and I won't feel that if I knew me, I'd be ashamed to introduce me to someone else, because that's basically what I'm doing when I meet someone new, is I'm introducing someone to someone else, and that person I'm introducing happens to be me. So when I get to the point where I think, wow, I'm a person, I'd be proud to introduce to someone else. I will proudly introduce myself to them. And I'll expect, perfectly reasonably, that as I get to know that new person is going to like me. Because I'm a good guy. Now, there are people who will never like me. Not because I'm not a good guy, not because they're not good people, but because their philosophy is too different. Or their style is too different. There are some people you're never going to be able to enjoy, but you can get along with. And there are some people you'll never be able to get along with. And this is true of males as well as females. So don't get caught up about it. So the simple thing is, when you meet some new girl, remember that deep down underneath that hot body, she's a person. The hotter looking you find her, the less frequently anyone has ever asked her what she thinks about something. I say this all the time. I say, what do you think is the least asked question to beautiful girls? And guys go, what? I say, no, you're not hearing me. I'm telling you, what do you think? Put that in quotes. What do you think? That is the question least asked of beautiful girls. And the truth is, beautiful girls are just as likely to be very bright as homely girls.
I probably would dispute that one point.
I've
met a lot of really dumb, beautiful girls that it seemingly, my theory being, just have never had to think because they have men doing their bidding for them who are trying to get into their pants.
You're absolutely right. You'll find them in places you're likely to be, because it's conducive to their being successful, being in these places. But on a statistical breakdown, a woman's looks have nothing to do with her intellect at all. If she happens to be very, very good looking and very bright, you're not likely to be able to find her in nightclubs because she's already probably either become so affluent that she no longer needs anyone else's help, or she's found someone very wealthy and powerful who is providing her security, and so she's not out in these nightclubs.
Sometimes I think they're not even out walking around the streets, to be honest.
and why should they be? What do they stand to gain?
When they've got many slaves running around picking up their things for them.
Let me give you further context, okay? For example, my sweetie makes a fortune for herself. Okay? Does not need me at all and could support me without thinking about it. You would not find her out in nightclubs or whatever because she's got no patience to go to a place where all that's going to happen is her ego will be fed by lots of guys hitting on her because she's comfortable with how attractive she is. She doesn't get any rush from that. She does not need other people to buy her drinks. She can afford to buy her drinks fine, thank you. So she spends her time as she wants to. From my perspective, I couldn't imagine being with someone whose ego was so fragile that they needed the constant reaffirmation of other people's falling all over them.
Wait, you're not talking about me, are you? You love me, don't you, Johnny? Don't you love me?
I love you, but not in the same way. Not in the same way. It's because your tits aren't big enough.
No,
anyway,
sure.
Oh, you have got a nice can. Anyway, so to come back to your original question, let's tidy this up real tight.
Yep.
I love doing our presentations together. I love doing work with you. The stuff you teach is incredibly powerful and empowering to guys on the ground, feet on the ground, eyes straightforward way.
You're not just saying that because I'm petting your cat right now and make him happy.
It wasn't the only reason.
All right.
Listen, anyone who knows me will know I am very much a straight shooter.
If you missed that, straight shooter, folks, straight shooter. Good.
Anyway, my comment is simple.
This has been a relatively pun-free episode, actually. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to pontificate. So, like I said, the stuff you do is great for teaching guys who want to become good with women to be good with women, who want to become better in their confidence in just starting up a conversation. I don't teach guys what to do. I try to help guys figure out how to be. And it's a much bigger job, and it takes longer.
How not to be, in a lot of cases.
Yes. Ultimately, how to be always should teach you how not to be. Mm. But yes, I try to do that, and I'm good at it. I'm very happy with it. My students, many of them go on to be teachers on their own right. I'm very, very proud of them, yourself included, because I love my job. I get to make friends for a living. People come in my door, they wouldn't be qualified to be my friend. But it's not very long after they've gone through my workshops or done my labs, worked with me, They become so self-accepting. They're not pipsqueak versions of Johnny. They're full-size versions of themselves. And that's plenty for me. I can be friends with anyone who accepts themselves, likes women. Anyone who has made peace with themselves in the world is a pleasure to be around. So I guess I get to make friends. That's what I do.
I never thought about it, but my job is the same.
There you go. So I do my workshops, and I love my workshops. I do the work we do together because it helps people. But it doesn't just help guys. And I don't just mean because women and men are both welcome to the Successfulness conferences. I mean, when I help a guy to look at a woman appreciatively, recognizing her as a free mind, an independent person, and helping her to empower herself to do what she'd like. Not just sleep with him if she wants to, but anything she chooses. Help her to feel the confidence to go ahead and lead the life she wants. It's a huge boon for her and for him. The thing that's held back the women's movement all these years, it's just being run by women. And I don't mean that to be ironic. I'm saying the truth is, when a woman tells a woman, you can be free, that's all well and good, but it's a case of the mice all voting to bell the cat. Ooh, we'd be a lot safer if the cat had a bell around his neck, don't you think? Yeah, we all agree. So everyone, we're going to put a bell on that cat, but who's actually going to do it? So when a man comes out and says, yeah, you're absolutely right, you women have been screwed over, given a terrible, terrible deal. And when you recognize that for both men and women alike, the road to freedom is when you recognize responsibility equals authority. Accountability equals autonomy. If you want to lead your own life, you have to pick up the pieces. Simple as that. And as soon as a woman becomes aware that she can feel good about herself for doing the things she wants to do, throwing away the idea that doing what she wants to is supposed to make her feel ashamed of herself, she will, and I promise you, so appreciate you, you will get sexual rewards, not necessarily from her, but from her girlfriends and from other people that she talks to about you. Or
potentially. Or
her boyfriends, because you might be gay sharing this information with her. It doesn't matter what your gender is, as long as it doesn't matter what your biological preference is. A male telling this to a woman is much more powerful and impactful to her because she wants to follow the male lead.
Sasha Daygame Enterprises does not condone homosexual behavior, though we are accepting it. So Johnny,
how about this? We don't condemn homosexual behavior. We just don't practice it.
Yeah, I think that's more accurate. So listen, two questions. Number one, where do the people go who want to learn more about Johnny Soporno?
Well, the easiest thing to do right now would be to go to Successfulness.com. At this time of year, it's probably going to lead them to a workshop description and also give them links to my annual January workshop, the one that takes place alongside the Adult Video Convention in Las Vegas. But in general, it will give them a great deal of insight on what it is I'm about, and will link them to other places where they can find some of my 20 or so hours of free seminar videos and everything I've produced. All my videos are all free. If I produce them, they're free, because my purpose is to enhance the world.
Now, wait a second, Johnny. Wait a second. I'm a little angry here because you're giving it away for free, and I'm selling my videos.
That's absolutely right. I am a slut.
You're a slut! You information slut! How could you?
Well, I'm happy to do it. I'll tell you something. The one question I get more often from women, I get it from just about every new girl I meet, is, why aren't more guys like you? And my answer is always the same. I'm working on it.
So, successfulness.com. I know it's tough to spell because some people are not so good at that. So it's SUCC, that's two C's, ESSFULNESS. It's not an easy word, even for someone who was born in an English-speaking country. So check out the website. I can't plug the event. I've been there before. Any time around Johnny is quality time. It'll fly by, but it will take your brain and shit on it, mash it up, explode it, and then build you a new brain with a better reality. It's very intense. Do go do it. If you think I'm plugging it because I'm making lots of money on it, no. Though I have no qualms about profiting from recommending things that will help change people's lives, I'm doing a special thing where the money I would have gotten as a commission for whoring Johnny Soporno, I'm going to give to whoever wants to do the training. You can have that off as a discount. So I believe it's $750 off for anyone who wants to do the training, and there's a special page where you can get that as bonus. So just go to Sasha Daygame .successfulness.com. Is that what it'll be?
Sure. Or I'll do that, and I'll make it Sasha, just in case people forget. So it's sasha.successfulness.com or sashadaygame.successfulness.com.
Sure. Either one of those. And you'll get a discount.
That's very, very sweet and generous of you, and I really appreciate it. I got to say, one thing that people don't seem to understand, the stuff that I'm doing, please take a look at the website, because you'll see scads and scads and scads of testimonials from very happy people. I do something I think is unheard of in the personal development community. I offer a basically forever money-back guarantee. If you, at the end of your session, you attend the workshop, you do the session, the end of it, 30 days afterwards, if you're not utterly convinced it was one of the best investments of your life, give me a call, I'll give you your money back. Simple as that. I've done this since I got into the business. Why? Because if 30 days afterwards, and sometimes I'll tell you, some of these things are pretty radical and it takes a little while for your mind to come to comfort with them while your ego is desperately clawing back to try and protect your preconceptions. But after a month, if you have not come to comfort with what I'm sharing and it's not made your life better, I haven't done my job. I don't deserve to be paid. I'll give you your money back. I've done this for...
That's a hell of a guarantee, Johnny.
What can I say? And I'll say again, if I didn't mean it, I wouldn't put it out in everything. It's as clear as it could be. Why do I say this? Because I really believe in what I'm doing, and I look forward to helping more and more people.
And I look forward to doing that with you. Johnny, virtual hug for you. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's wonderful. And sadly, I won't be able to make it this year to the event because I'll be in South America and then I have to teach in Australia. However, next year, I'm going to put it in my calendar in advance.
Sounds good to me.
And I'll be there.
It'd be absolutely a pleasure.
Wonderful. See you next time.
Thank you, Sasha.
Peace out.